What's your best also but wait, it gets worse story? Friend of mine just lost her ex-husband and father of her child to a motorcycle accident. But wait, it gets worse. 15-year-old son had a birthday a few days after the accident. Gift arrived in the mail day of the birthday. His father had gotten him motorcycle lessons. Just heartbreaking. Had a tooth pulled. Got dry socket. Finally recovered and had the implant surgery. Got dry socket again. Also, found out laughing gas and hydrocodone gives me panic attacks. Got rear-ended by a truck. Pulled over to check my trunk on a hilly street. A car parked behind me rolled downhill and crushed me between it and my newly messed up trunk. Suffered some cracked ribs. An acquaintance got married in an extravagant $80,000 ceremony, that's $57,000 in freedom dollars, and broke up on their honeymoon. But wait, it gets worse. They split because the groom was cheating on the bride with a string of one-night stands. Meanwhile, the bride was having an ongoing affair with the best man. But wait, it gets worse. They pretended to stay married for 6 months after out of shame, but it all came tumbling down when he made a huge Facebook rant calling her a whore and tagging all their friends and family in it with the most dramatic hitstorm of a comments section known to humanity. But wait, it gets worse. The bride and the best man decided they wanted to have a baby and she immediately ran off with him and got knocked up. I worked in an operating room and was on call. Arriving at the hospital, checked in with the doc and patient in pre-op. At least once per year we get someone with something stuck in their ass. The young man was there with his mom and sister, who explained the dildo got stuck Friday night, but that their grandma was sick so they waited until Sunday to bring him to the hospital so he could see her. Then per usual the family and patient is asked if they have any questions before we take him back. Mom says yeah. While he's in there, can you test him for STDs? His sister tested positive and was operating the dildo, so we want to make sure. A co-worker of mine, we'll call Andy, had a brother we'll call Mike. Mike's wife died from cancer, leaving Mike and his 2 kids who were around 5 and 7 years old. But wait, it gets worse. Overcome with grief, Mike ended up killing himself, leaving behind his 2 kids. But wait, it gets worse. Andy had to sue his own parents to get custody of Mike's kids due to several issues with the grandparents. But wait, it gets worse. Andy's wife died suddenly, leaving Andy to take care of Mike's 2 kids and his 2 kids around the same age. This all happened over a 3-year span. Edit, just a minor clarity adjustment. I was a manager at a hotel in Oakland. A valet parker took a guest's Corvette out for a joyride. He lost control of the car in a residential area and crashed into a parked car in a driveway. The Corvette and the parked car smashed through the home's garage door and caught on fire. The home partially burned down. The valet was caught by the police a block away, fleeing on foot with a broken leg. When I was 6 years old, the natural gas detector alarm kept going off, so my mom had to call the fire department to check if there was any dangerous natural gases. The fire department came and basically scientifically told my mom that her constant farting kept setting it off. This happened about 10 years ago. My boyfriend called me in the morning and dumped me over the phone. I was really upset and forgot to finish the laundry I'd started, so I had to go into work out of dress code. Of course. That would be the day our district manager was visiting and I got written up on the spot, even though it was the first time I'd ever been out of dress code. Spent my break crying because the universe was just taking a dump on me. But wait, it gets worse. When I got home that evening, I had a notice of eviction taped to my door because we had apparently been illegally sublet the apartment and had no clue. Didn't even cry because at that point it was just yup. That seems about right for today. I was in a rush because I woke up late. I then stubbed my toe really badly on the table. I had to rush to the embassy to get my passport done. I almost finished the 3-hour drive to get there when I realized I forgot all the documents I needed for my passport. A woman I know got divorced just days after her wedding because she discovered that her new husband had an affair. But wait, it gets worse. She found out because apparently he cheated on the wedding with his affair, who also was invited. They were busted by the father of the bride. I work at an office. The building is owned by my boss, who is too cheap to shell out for actual maintenance service and has employees do handiwork around the clock. One day, it started to snow. The snow was sticking to the sidewalk and showed no signs of letting up, so of course me and my co-workers had to go out and clean it. So while my boss sat in his nice, cushy office, we start shoveling. One of my co-workers, let's call him X, is relatively new and having grown up in an apartment complex, has never shoveled before. Well, maybe that contributed to what happened next. He starts pushing the shovel in front of him at a crotch level, and eventually, the shovel head gets stuck on a raised brick and it pushes the handle end of the shovel into X's crotch. There was no shovel handle because he had been given a broken shovel with a rusted end. Castration being imminent, X proceeds to tuck and roll off the sidewalk and into oncoming traffic. Fortunately for X, somebody grabbed him and pulled him back to safety. Boss drove him to the emergency room and paid for the resulting tetanus shot and 14 stitches on the inner thigh. Needless to say, he was not allowed to shovel again. Edit, a word. I had to remove my wisdom tooth in a really cheap dental clinic. The dentist has an eye problem in which she removes my tooth besides my wisdom tooth instead of my wisdom tooth with manual equipment. Removing one tooth is almost an hour. She then removes the not my wisdom tooth, and as soon as she realizes her mistake she then began on my real wisdom tooth. But as soon as she started working on it the anesthesia began to wear off. At the end I have to get a huge stitch on the site of not my wisdom tooth was supposed to be, and I have to go on my first day of work on Monday. Surgery happened on a Friday. Edit 1. Wow. Didn't think this would blow up overnight. It happened 2016. I'm a broke college kid who just graduated college that time, so I cannot get good lawyers or sue. My grandmother died on Thanksgiving Day in front of the whole family. My grandmother had gotten diagnosed with brain cancer about 6 months prior, and knowing that she was in hospice care, much of the family decided to come visit for one last Thanksgiving, even though she was unconscious in the next room. The entire day, the cooking was going on despite grandma's condition, and teenage me spent many hours salivating over a whole roasted pig being barbecued outside in place of a turkey. I was pretty stoked. Just as the sizzling pig is being taken off the barbecue, a hospice nurse sticks her head outside and announces that it's time. My grandmother at this exact moment is passing away. We all go inside, gather around the bed, and for 45 minutes or so, I watch as my grandmother gasps for air, twitches and dies. It was a little traumatic. For some reason after that, we decide we are going to still sit down and eat dinner. I'm watching the barbecue pig be chopped up, and as I'm thinking I can probably still get myself to eat some of it, they douse it all in vinegar and chili flakes, ruining it. So as I try to choke down this enormous disappointment, after watching my grandmother die, the morticians come and wheel her body out through the living room, and at that point, I was pretty much done. I was on Tinder and met this girl. We talked for a bit and decided to exchange snaps. A few snaps in I find out she has a kid. We are both 18. But wait, it gets worse. I find out she's not 18 like her profile but actually 15. But wait, it gets worse. I tell her we cannot talk at all and she says age isn't a problem, my baby daddy is 21. And that's when I decided Tinder wasn't for me. I work in the care of the disabled. One fine morning, I go up the stairs to wake a resident. I see a nice little turd on the ground. I sweat a bit at myself, but I'm thinking at least the person who did this didn't step into it and smear it everywhere. It's just a nice little dollop. I run downstairs to get gloves, bucket etc, and I'm gone for literally 2 minutes. I get back upstairs and the nice little dollop is now a flat pancake, and there are footprints. I follow the footprints. They lead into a bedroom. I knock on the door and open it. Inside, one of my residents is furiously washing his slippers with his bare hands, cleaning off the he stepped in. When he spots me he starts yelling at me about that little fat itch who's always eating and pissing on the floor. I just lost it at that point. The image of him washing up his slipper, mumbling to himself and getting into a rage still makes me laugh. Cleanup was a bit more than I'd wanted but not the worst I have ever seen. Better to laugh about these things than to get angry. Last year, March, my mill dies after lingering from a stroke for a few months. April, Dr. sees something on mammogram and son is hospitalized for suicidal thoughts. May. Testing and diagnosed with breast cancer. June. July and August. Surgery and treatment for breast cancer. They got it all. August. Phil dies from lung cancer. October. Son tries to hang himself and is in the hospital for 8 days. He is doing better now. This year. The same son has been in 2 car accidents. Neither his fault. One does 17k in damage to his brand new car. And my sister just died last week. Not sure if it's my best, but it's the first one that came to mind. Messed up at trick skateboarding. Air in half pipe. Landed with the toes of my back foot off the board. They caught on the ground and my foot twisted. Dislocated my ankle. As my foot continued to turn, the bones in my ankle got jammed against the bones in my leg. So I broke off the end of one of my leg bones too. Fibula. 3 days in hospital. Metal plate and 9 screws. One of the screws broke later. A month ago, though my dad had COVID as he was quite fluish. Vomiting etc. Test comes back, no, he doesn't have it. But still sick. A few days later. The day after my brother's birthday. He dies on his bedroom floor of a massive heart attack. We're all in shock. Then my brother starts getting heart pains, probably from stress or anxiety, but insists on getting an EKG. Feels like he's going to pass out all the time. Probably fine but still stressful. 3 weeks to the day after my father dies, I get a phone call that my mother cannot breathe. Almost fainted on the stairs. Needs me to take her to the ER. I'm convinced she has COVID. She didn't. She's there till 3 AM. Needed 2 blood transfusions because her iron levels are insanely low. The day after that, after we've taken her home and start working on a nutrition plan, the dog gets bit by something. Starts limping and drooling and we have to rush him to the vet to make sure he's not having an allergic reaction. He's fine now, so hooray. Been a rough month, guys. I've told this a few times, but it's just wild. In April 2017. On my birthday, my family came over for dinner and cake. It was my sister, her husband, my niece, my parents, my brother, his then fiance registered sign, now wife, and my GF. So we're having a nice time, eating hoagies, subs for those not from Philly, and my newly 2-year-old niece decided to jump on the couch, while my sister headed over to stop her. My niece slipped and with a loud bang hit her head on the coffee table. My sister yelped and quickly scooped up her daughter. My niece was crying and my sister was trying to calm her. Everything was quiet for a moment. Then my sister screamed. She rushed into the kitchen and I looked at my niece's head. There was blood. A lot of blood. We spin into a panic as my sister is hyperventilating. I quickly soak up the blood with a paper towel and notice only a very tiny cut. She didn't even need sticks. My father grabbed some ice and a rag and put pressure on the cut. My brother-in-law took my sister and niece to the hospital as the rest of us cleaned up a bit before heading over. So as we're cleaning, my then 14-year-old deaf cocker spaniel decided he wanted a hoagie. I glance over to the table, only to see his face slowly reaching for one. We all notice and run over to stop him. But that hoagie was no more, only scraps remained. So as we were cleaning said scraps, my dog walks back into the kitchen, looks at us, and it's on the floor. What the duck? TL. Doctor, my niece fell. Cut her head. Family freaks. Old dog takes this opportunity to eat a hoagie and promptly it's on the floor. My niece of fine BTW. Pyrrhus led his army to attack Sparta as the Spartan army was away in Crete. The garrison was able to defend the city until the Spartan army returned, so Pyrrhus led a retreat. During the withdrawal his army was harassed by ambushes leading to more casualties and the death of his son. There was a dispute between factions and nearby Argos, and the leader of one faction, Orestes, was like, I just met you and this is crazy, but here's my city. Sack it maybe, and offered to leave a city gate open and undefended during the night. Pyrrhus saw an opportunity to make the campaign a success. His war elephants, basically the tank of this era, with their towers were too tall to enter the city. Their advantage was lost because they had to remove the towers, bring in the elephant and tower and then remount them. The city's narrow streets led to chaos. Because the advantage was lost, they started losing and decided to retreat. During the street fighting, an elephant died and blocked the gate out. While trying to move the elephant, Pyrrhus entered combat with a soldier. A soldier's mother watched from the window of her apartment and threw a clay roofing tile at her house. She hit and he died. Went hiking with my parents along the beach to a nature preserve. It was lightly drizzling, so kind of fun. Then my mom had the wonderful idea to walk back to the hotel next to the highway, saying it would continue to drizzle and that there is no way that this will not end badly. The clouds opened up and unleashed hell. I was widowed. 30 days later, my sister was also widowed and I lost my brother-in-law of 30 years. 3 weeks later, my dad went missing as he had diagnosed dementia and we didn't find him for 2 days. And when we did, he was almost 1,000 miles away in another state. 3 weeks after getting him home and settled, my dear friend was murdered in a mass shooting. It is 10 weeks of my life. 2018 marginally beats 2020 because my favorite uncle died in January. Having to tell my daughter was hard because nobody expected it. But wait, it gets worse. In March, my husband and I lose our old, beloved dog after he fell down the stairs, twisted his bowels and couldn't poop. He was too old for surgery and meds didn't do a thing and we had to put him down. It was the first time I've ever had to make such a hard call and hold him while it was done. Traumatized. But wait, it gets worse. In May, my husband's beloved grandma died. Not unexpectedly but suddenly after a long illness. But wait, it continues to get worse. During August, my husband has a series of bad epileptic fits requiring me to take time off work to care for him and my daughter while he recovers. Using up what's left of my days off, resulting in the big boss of my work questioning whether or not I should be let go if I have to be at home so much. Thankfully, I was not let go. 2018 can go duck itself. I was in a trade school about 2 years ago and I was in CDL training at this time. One Friday, I lost my wallet. I didn't find it for the whole weekend and I concluded that it had been stolen. Because I now didn't have a wallet, I didn't have my driver's license, my CDL permit, or my medical card, all of which were required to operate an 18-wheeler owned by the school. The following Monday, my driving teacher told me to go to the DMV to get a new copy of my license and permit. Unfortunately, the only DMV open was in downtown Pittsburgh. I got down to the DMV and I waited in line for a solid 2 hours. Once I was called up, the guy told me that they only accept money orders or debit cards, and all I had was some cash. I then had to get another number and walk 3 blocks away to the local Rite Aid to get money orders. Another 2 hours later, I'm next in line to be called, and everyone sorta stopped working. All of the counters were open for about 45 minutes, and no explanation was given. I admit I may have lost my cool on the security lady working there. When she told me that the computer system crashed, and that I need to leave, I left the DMV as pissed off as I've ever been, and walked back to my car to find I got a $50 parking ticket. The next day, I went to my local DMV and got my new license and permit and was able to start driving again. But later that night I found my wallet under my bed. I've had a stuffed Donald Trump dog toy for almost 4 years now. I refuse to give it to my dogs until he does the worst thing he'll do as president, knowing that my dogs will shred any stuffed toy within hours. At least once a month since 2016. I have had to stop and consider whether things will get worse with him or not. I have consistently decided it could get worse. Hindsight has consistently shown me that I was right. I had a root canal a few years ago. In 2018 I was eating something and the tooth cracked and was hanging off my gum. Thought that I'd just need to get it removed and that was that. Well, the roots couldn't get taken out, so I was referred to the dental center at the hospital. Thought I'd just need to wait. Oh no. I experienced extreme pain and after an x-ray, there was this black shadow in my tooth. Turns out the infection was pressing down on the main nerve in my face straight from the brain. I had to go to my GP and get antibiotics and they still didn't help. Was in agony for a month straight until the hospital luckily had an opening early to get the roots removed. Worst pain I've ever felt. This January my family and I went on summer vacations. I live in Argentina. On my dad's car. Mid-trip my little brother starts to puke on the entire van. We stop, we get out to clean ourselves. And everything else. The sun is high on the sky. Is so hot that my other brother gets dizzy. as well as my mum. We continue the trip. For a few hours, everything is okay. But then, my mum asks for some fresh air and starts to puke next to the road. We keep going as we have other 13 hours of road trip to cover. When the sun is setting, my brother has to puke again. But we can't stop, so he throws up through the window. Not without vomiting the entire side of the truck. But wait, it gets worse. My dad has to throw up now, and he is driving again through the window. We end up on a road motel in the middle of nowhere, and now I have to throw up now for the whole night. The 17 hours trip became a 3-day long trip. My 2020 January, I found out I was autoimmune gluten intolerant. February, I was plagued with an outdoor roach infestation. March, I was hit by a car by a lady on her phone, unrecoverable spinal injuries. April, I found out my wife was cheating on me. May, I found out I owe $600k in bills from the accident. The person who hit me had terrible insurance that will only cover about $10k worth. June, I found out my dog has fleas and it's been hell trying to get rid of them. July, I got a call from my doctor about my scans in March. They think it's stage IV metastatic lung cancer. But my PCP never read the ER notes and followed up with me. August, I should find out the results of the confirmation scans next week. I don't want to die. Edit. Thank you all for the kindness. I really appreciate it. Here's to hoping I make it to 32. Update. Nodular lung disease. Duck. At least it's probably not metastasized yet according to the doc. Time to put on my fighting gloves. The entirety of Russian history is sorta like that. 16 years old. Woke up in the morning, stepping over some junk on my bedroom floor near the dresser and caught my toe on the drawer handle. Ripped off my toenail on my pinky toe. Cut to pay at school. Waiting in line to hit during softball and the kid bat swings for the fence's dart and lets go of the bat. Catches me right in the chest and basically takes me off my feet. Waking home from school, friend jokingly flicks his cig at me. Ashes go in my right eye and I stumble into a hole by the sidewalk and roll my ankle. Driving along a pretty busy street and a 10-year-old girl rides a bike out of a side street into the side of my car. That's right, she actually hit me. No helmet. Head smashed my windshield. Window opening broke her collarbone. Road rash from her heels to her ass. Cop 2 cars behind me in traffic saw the whole thing. No ticket but feel terrible. Go home to explain to my mom what happened and she yelled at me. I went to bed by 7:30 p.m.